Yeah, so before we take up the reading for today, let's maybe invoke Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's presence. So, yeah, I think last time we had stopped here. Calm is necessary before calling down something higher so as not to be disturbed by the invasion of thoughts. Yeah, so today we can just randomly take something further and see whatever is there for us as a takeaway. So, starting from Monday, 24th May 1926.
Yeah, should I read? Gagan, are you reading?
Yeah, you can read if you want to.
No, no, you read.
Okay. Monday, May 24, 1926. The difficulty always comes from the mechanical part of the mind. It clings to everything it can find, small things of daily life, books, purchases, etc., and embroiders and builds upon these data. Nevertheless, there is a certain progress in the way I look at its activity. It's it seems more external. You will not be able to free yourself completely from this mechanical activity until you have accomplished the transformation of the physical. Till then, you will be able to stop it at will during meditation, for instance. You will see it as outside yourself and have a certain influence on its line of unfoldment, but you won't be entirely free from it. I suppose I take too great an interest in these things. That is what enables my mind to get fastened to them. The highest parts of my mind have fallen silent. I no longer have any interest in spiritual books like the Bhagavad Gita or others. Only this mechanical part remains active. Because this is the most difficult to handle. Moreover, the physical consciousness always takes interest in these things. And even if they were not in you, they fill the surrounding atmosphere. Unless one follows the sannyasins, one must fight like you. But this is rather a negative thing, and one must not attach too great an importance to it. A positive experience is more important. That is, either the deep calm or the light from above. And these will quite naturally remove the rest of this mechanical activity. You must aim at this.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can stop at this moment. So I think all of us must have noticed this mechanical mind in us. Sri Aurobindo calls it at other time physical mind also, where there is just like continuous chatter going on. And it's very interesting to read this, that we'll have to live with it. You will see that as outside yourself and have a certain influence, but you won't be entirely free from it. So I think that is very interesting, and we find a reflection of that also in Kabirji's songs and couplets. In one of the couplet he says, "Man ko mritak jaan ke mat कीजिए विश्वास, साधो तब तक भय करे जब तक पिंजर में सांस." So as long as we have breath in the body, this particular little picking up things and talking about that, this mechanical mind will be there. It may not be fully active, but it will be there. So we don't have to keep fighting with it. I think there we can relax. So again, as we read that, not to fight against the darkness that is there, but to light up a lamp. So Sri Aurobindo gives that kind of a suggestion in the second paragraph, where he says that focusing on two trivial things, that oh, I'm so bad, I'm so unfit, this imperfection is there in me, this weakness is there in me, अभी तक ये चेंज नहीं हुआ, अभी तक वो चेंज नहीं हुआ. So focusing on negative, he says that one must not attach too great an importance to. A positive experience is more important, either the deep calm or the light from above, and these will quite naturally remove the rest of this mechanical activity. So I think this is very inspiring for us. If we are fighting with something in our nature, so we don't have to continue fighting. We can inculcate something greater and higher and beautiful, which takes place rather than giving more importance to the dirt and the weakness. Yeah, anything here? Anyone? And this is also very interesting when he says that in meditation, if you want to concentrate, or there you can actually at will, and some of us may have glimpsed that although we recognize the unnecessariness of it, but we see that the chatter is there. So when I want to concentrate, then I can actually push it aside, because some part of my being knows that it is unnecessary. Although one also sees that it is present, it is unnecessary, but it is present. So when I want to focus, or when I want to, sit, concentrate, or meditate for some time, it is possible then at will to push it aside and have the thing in front that we want to do. Because out of understanding and life experiences, one realizes that that will just go on and on. It's never ending.
That also, one could say, is related to the power of concentration.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because what you were saying with meditation,
Mm.
I had listened to a lecture you had with Nama, Taming the Monkey Mind. It was very nice. That one thing that was said was, you know, being in the body, I think, use that expression. And now, when we are concentrating, say, in the heart or wherever, use the need of the breath as you suggested. But at least what I see is this useless chatter, which is there, like, Pavitra are saying here all the time. It just automatically just comes to, I mean, they'll come, but it's like 80-90% reduced, right? Because you're constantly bringing your awareness back to the point of concentration. So if your heart or above the head or wherever, whatever works for you, or on your breath. So I just thought maybe that is also a factor. But since most of us cannot concentrate or have that focus throughout the day, that's why when we are doing all these normal activities, cooking or walking or anything else, then it's just constant things or useless thoughts are coming in and out. Right?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So I think the point is that slowly, with our all the experiences in life that we have so far, more and more we get just convinced that there is nothing that we can get in actually getting entangled in those little noises that are there in the background. So we can let them be there, and we can, uh, as it says, that movie again, I get reminded of A Beautiful Mind, where he sees those hallucinations, those people that are hallucinatory. He's seeing them, but he's choosing to ignore them, and he has better things to do in life. So same, like we have to focus on something which is more positive, and rather than looking at that, oh, these noises are still there in the background. So now we can become very comfortable with that yes, they are going to remain for a long time, and I don't have to keep fighting with them. So in Savitri's yoga also, I'm just enchanted to share that here, because it reflects or resonates very much with what we just read. So in Savitri's yoga, when we go to the entry into the inner countries, there also she sees all these noises and murmurs and everything, and then she just continues straight ahead with it. She doesn't stop, as if left and right all these things are trying to stop her and wanting to grab attention, but she doesn't stop. So we can maybe go through that a little bit. Just a second. Yeah. Entry into inner country. Yeah, so this one. So before this, the canto was Parable of the Search for the Soul. So she's directed that, go find your hid self. And now she enters her being, the entry into inner countries, and all that she has to go through in order to find her soul. So these lines are just, the whole canto is really beautiful. I mean, most of the lines I'm sure all of us can resonate with. So starting from, yeah, this starting from here. Then Savitri surged out of her body's wall. So we were talking of stepping back the other day. So this is a kind of a stepping back. Then Savitri surged out of her body's wall and stood a little span outside herself and looked into her subtle being's depths. And in its heart, as in a lotus bud, divined her secret and mysterious soul. Now he's going further. She knocked and pressed against the ebony gate. The living portal groaned with sullen hinge. Heavily, reluctant, it complained inert against the tyranny of the spirit's touch. So now she hears a voice which says the back off. So this is also very beautiful. A formidable voice cried from within, back, creature of earth, lest tortured and torn thou die. But she doesn't get backed off, and she goes within. Unshaken, her will pressed on the rigid bars. The gate swung wide with a protesting jar. The opponent powers withdrew their dreadful guard. Her being entered into the inner worlds. And then now she's getting into these, what we were talking of, this, the background chatter that is there. In a narrow passage, the subconscious gate, she breathed with difficulty and pain, and strove to find the inner self concealed in sense. An opposition of misleading gleams. I'll jump. A heavy barrier of unseeing sight. So all this she has to cross. She forced her way through body to the soul. So this again talks about the subconscious murmur and chatter that goes on. A swarm with the elemental entities, fluttering shapes of vague, half-bodied thought, crude beginnings of incontinent force. At first, a difficult narrowness was there, a press of uncertain powers and drifting wills. So this we observe in ourselves, drifting wills. कभी कोई aspect हमको खींच रहा है, कभी कोई aspect खींच रहा है. A press of uncertain powers and drifting wills, for all was there, but nothing in its place. At times an opening came, a door was forced. She crossed through spaces of a secret self and trod in passages of inner time. Then she goes further. At last she broke into a form of things, but all was still confused, nothing self-found. Soul was not there, but only cries of life. A thronged and clamorous air environed her. So again, this crowdiness that we feel from time to time in our head, like just too much is there in the background, but nothing is really very articulate. It's like an inarticulate murmur. A thronged and clamorous air, but shore hai, shore sharaba hai, but not really making sense. A thronged and clamorous air environed her. A horde of sounds defied significance. A dissonant clash of cries and contrary calls. A jostle sequence lacking sense and suit. Feelings pushed through a packed and burdened heart. Each forced its separate, inconsequent way, but cared for nothing but its ego's drive. A rally without key or common will. So all this it's amazing to see that in Kabirji also similar, so exactly at this moment I was reminded of when Kabirji says, in one of the songs, that all these deers of the senses, they will eat you up. Tohe maar tero maas bikave, tore khal ka karenge bichona. So exactly at this stanza, you will see. So all these different wills and ideas are coming from everywhere, and each one is wanting to pluck out the reason he uses, as if to pluck the reason from its seat and cast its corpse into life's wayside drain. तो मेरे मतलब का जो reason है, जैसे as Sri Aurobindo shares, mother shares that how our impulses and instincts, they actually make use of the reason, and reason actually begins to support those impulses and all these cries that are there. And then he says, abandoned the slain sentinel of the soul. So अब reason बेचारा रहा ही नहीं, उसको उसने मार डाला, अपने लिए उसने यूज कर डाला reason को, as if to pluck the reason from its seat and cast its corpse into life's wayside drain. So might forgotten lie in nature's mud, abandoned the slain sentinel of the soul. So could life's power shake from its mind's rule. Nature renounced the spirit's government, and the bare elemental energies make of the sense a glory of boundless joy. So मजे कर रहे हैं, you know, all is just ego's drive, और वो हमारे ऊपर मजे कर रहे हैं, you know, हम torture हो रहे हैं, हम torment हो रहे हैं, और वो senses अपने मजे कर रही हैं. All these elemental energies and impulses, they are just ruling, but cared for nothing but its ego's drive. A splendor of ecstatic anarchy, a revel mighty and mad of utter bliss. So I found this very resonating with how we are tortured when we listen to ego's commands, which are all these dictates which are going on in the background, and we think that we are going to get something out of it, but we are just ripped apart.
Yeah, very beautiful. There is also, I was reminded that as you were reading those lines, there are also lines, I think it says, and joy will not suffer too glad a load. It's so true, right? Even if we are doing and we are like having, just feeling good and, whatever, and then you want to do all these mundane, useless things, right? Ye kar lo, wo kar lo, because you can't stay in that like rarefied air for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you want to come back and get your mind involved. It's two, three lines I just was recalling. She tires or something like that.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly. So the first one you said is there is a darkness in material things which cannot suffer
mm,
too long, glad or not. Yeah. So
yes,
that was the
yes,
first thing.
yes,
And the second one that you were sharing is the restless neither members tire of the peace.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank
They
you.
just can't
Yes.
stand it. Our container is not strong enough to contain that high note that you were sharing. Yes.
Yeah, Savitri is just incredible.
And then he says, goes further, restless neither members tire of peace, and as if our resting poise is enough, like a low poise, we can't rest in a high poise. We have to rest in our common chats and gossips and entertainment. You know, let's bring it up. Actually, this is a just a second. Yeah, got it. आपने मेरे को ना ऐसी गलत जगह हिट कर दिया. ये सावित्री का सेशन हो जाएगा अब, ये इंस्पिरेशनल लाइफ.
Actually, it's good to blend these, I
Yeah,
like it. We also try to do it at our
yes,
center, and it's nice.
yeah. So this is what you were sharing. Only a while at first, these
Ah,
heavenlier
yes.
states, the
Yes,
high
yes,
and
yes.
luminous tension breaks too soon. Slowly they fail as sets a golden day. The restless neither members tire of peace. A nostalgia of old little works and joys. A need to call back small familiar selves. To tread the accustomed and inferior way. The need to rest in a natural pose of fall. So
Beautiful,
beautiful, really.
beautiful.
Yeah, all the lines go on and on. As a child who
Yeah, the
learns to
need to
walk.
rest in
Yes.
a sorry.
Yeah,
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 no,
go on.
just that the need to rest in a natural pose of fall. My
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
कि जो छोटे काम में बिजी रहते हैं हम लोग अच्छा ही
Mm,
है वो it's like so true. Let's talk with friends, let's do useless chit chat, right?
mm, mm. Yeah. So these old patterns, that pull us back to old tendencies, an old pull of subconscious chords renews. It draws the unwilling spirit from the heights. Unwilling. Spirit का मन नहीं करा नीचे आने का, but आदत पड़ी हुई है, पैटर्न है. Or a dull gravitation drags us down. This inertia that we have in the body. Yeah. But then, nothing to worry. He winds up. This too, the supreme diplomat can use. He makes our fall a means for greater rise. तो यहाँ पे हमको अच्छा लगने लग जाता है कि हाँ, जो हो रहा है ठीक ही हो रहा है.
Ma'am, your voice is distorted.
Yeah, I think there is something
Good.
wrong with my net. Yeah, so anything here? Anyone?
In synthesis, in self-consecration, there was something that I had shared on the group yesterday
Mm-hmm.
that too spoke about, the mechanical nature of how things are. So, when my life is full of me and my special emotions and my likings and my preferences, which are just, for me, this is me, my definitions and purposes and whatever. But when one sees it so written with so much brevity that okay, everybody has this, it's quite a wake up call again. Not that we haven't gotten them before, that how clearly Sri Aurobindo was writing that, okay, everybody has some this, some that, some this. So then it really helps in not getting carried away again and again. And one can again see, okay, this is the mold I'm in, this is the mold I'm in, as if a statue is recognizing that, oh, this is how I've been made, because it feels that, oh, I'm unique. And yet, yeah. But again, the way he had said it, that that's how it is, was very familiar with, resonating with that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we can have our takeaways from this. So no need to keep fighting with that mechanical background noise. And if we personally have stopped to giving most of it much importance, then at least at will we will be able to stop it when we want to concentrate. And also, rather than focusing on what is.
One question.
Yes, yes, yes.
Where he's asking this question, I no longer have any interest in spiritual books, from the highest parts, he says. Uh, how do you interpret that? How do we interpret that? Is it like a mental seeking is not there anymore?
I don't know. Yeah, I would not know. You have any sharing? You can
Hmm.
share whatever is coming to you.
I was thinking, there may be a point when, this, because sometimes maybe that is something that, so maybe that one doesn't have the need to do that anymore, and I don't know. As you said, this is a very high state, so, but that, yeah, that is probably the way I would think about it. I don't know if others have any thoughts, but because there is like a phase, even in like, so maybe we sometimes can see this, that, when we want to read a lot, when we want to, this, and I was listening to a lecture of Alokta. It was, a very, this aspect, which I think we have touched on here also, I think in one of the lectures earlier, I think Taru, you were saying, right, everything, it is so simple. And people would come to the ashram and say, but there's no method and there was no this. And they would say, but yeah, it is just you remember her. That's, so now you say it is so simple. So then, and now I'm drawing a parallel. And one doesn't have the need to go here, there. It's like, yes, there's a lot of wonderful knowledge, but I guess when the mind falls silent, it doesn't feel like it needs anything more. It seems like it's already at that point where the wisdom that it would acquire from these sources has been gained. I can only imagine. That's my feeling.
Yeah. I think there comes a time maybe, है ना, कि बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ लिया, and then that's enough, now that the bodily realization, the physical, practical realization in the body now has to happen. So yeah, quite possible.
Yeah, that line, the highest parts of my mind
Mm-hmm.
have fallen silent. If I say that my mind is like a market, like a bazaar with so many things, so many selves, myself talking, and at least I don't really believe that the mind, that highest part of the mind has fallen silent. It's just that I'm listening. Like, let's say someone is chanting a mantra in that market, and someone is singing a Bollywood song. So if my interest is going toward Bollywood song, I'll think that there is no chanting because all I'm listening is just that song. But if my interest, again, if I'm able to, like, it's said so many times, to take a step back and just quieten a bit, then maybe I can see that there is still that element in me. But since I am not focused on that anymore, I feel that it's silent. Because I say this because there were times in my life when I thought that, okay, maybe I do not have an inclination, and 1 2 days after that, I again I get that inclination back. So the thing that I thought is not at all there in me was still there. It's just that I had to see it after a bit. So yeah.
Huh. I think the problem is we may not really know where, in what kind of a space these questions are coming from. Definitely, we may not know. We may at times resonate with these questions. At times, we may be going through similar experience in our life, but and at times we may not fathom the question at all. But the good thing is, the beautiful thing is that responses that Sri Aurobindo gives, always there is something or the other that we can take away, whether we resonate or understand the question or not. So
Yeah, and just on the example that Jagan was giving me, for me, like, the punch was that when all those sounds are silenced, when the chants have silence, when the Bollywood song has silence, still, Sri Aurobindo says that the mechanical part remains active. So, as in, there is no other option, but one has to learn the way around it, right? Like because I keep slipping, I keep slipping, thinking that, okay, slowly this will stop, and then maybe I will be able to better sit and, I don't know, establish that connection. But just the fact that it has to be established despite of this, in spite of this, and how he further says, right? Light from above. So just that, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, maybe we can take this. And seems like question is very interesting. I have not looked at the response, but the question seems very interesting. So yes, if anyone would like to read, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. Monday, May 31st, 1926. My meditation is becoming deeper and more detached from the external world. At certain times, I succeed in watching myself thinking. Thought does not yet seem to me as external, but I can nevertheless consider this activity as objective. I am also quite aware that thought is an altogether superficial activity and that it does not affect the deeper layers of my being but remains on the surface. When the meditation becomes deep, my feet start aching. What kind of sensation do you have? At the same time, like a pressure and a pulling out, is it perhaps the vital being rising up to separate itself? It may be that, or possibly it is a meditation which is generally produced when the divine force transforms gradually even the physical substance. The substance is impure and cannot receive the impulsion without a previous transformation. Is it the physical matter itself which changes or the life of this matter? It is a cellular modification found above all within the vital and mental, but even physical matter shares in it. Should I carry on?
Yeah, I was
No, na?
thinking maybe you can
Yeah.
take this one also up. Mm.
In my meditations, there are several inner attitudes which I can take, and each one generates certain vital currents. What attitudes, for instance? I, I can try to take the stand of witness of the mental activity. I can attempt to climb higher and hold fast to the uppermost position of my being. I can call the force down. In my last meditations, for instance, it was not above the head that I was centered, but behind the solar plexus in the depth and not on the height. It is the region of the psychic being which is behind the heart, solar plexus. Here is one of the occult centers, and it is this one that governs the ordinary mind, ordinary man. You must also become conscious in the one above the head, whence the central being governs everything.
Yeah, thank you. So I think this we come across again and again, these two centers, and with if some of us resonate with working on these centers, we can take it up in our practice. The region behind the heart, depths of the heart, behind the heart, and then there is this one above the head, a few inches above the head, not in the head but above the head, 3-4 inches above the head. So whenever we can, how much ever we can, if we are interested, we can try to get out of this brain lodged consciousness. I think it helps.
It's interesting that here,
Hmm.
I mean, Aurobindo doesn't, just scroll down a little bit, that he doesn't necessarily say to focus on one or the other. In other
Hmm.
places, in some he has,
Hmm.
but I guess it was coming so spontaneously to Pavitra, right? I
Hmm.
feel.
Hmm. I think that's what is very helpful whenever we read these letters or whatever, because each one has its own unique journey. Now these conversations are not happening with Nirod Baran has different questions, and those are also helpful to us. So it's very interesting how these different people have given us so much, which we can use.
Yes.
And then we go to Huta Didi, and she's writing letters to mothers, adverse forces and all that, and mother is giving her again and again same instruction, don't leave my side, you go away, I am always here. So they can be helpful in some other stages in our, from time, depends on whatever phase we are in our life. They are very helpful mediums or tools, which we can make use of, all these answers that we have.
I think even we've seen his pictures. So at our center here, we have two older devotees, and they grew up in the ashram. The husband and wife, and the husband actually has seen Sri Aurobindo, and one of the very few people, and he also was there at he when Sri Aurobindo left his body. So he witnessed that event, which is so amazing and magnificent. But uh, so all that we've heard about the 5 days, and he was there. Anyway, so they tell that Pavitrada's personality was so sweet. He was so humble and just always smiling. Always. I mean, they were of course very young, and so it's very nice. I mean, like you said, like everybody's nature is different, their approach is different, and we are all different also. So, it's, but yeah, they always like their interactions with him. They remember, like I just like we all have our own personality. Some people by nature just they will smile, they will be very thing, and some maybe have a little again maybe a little reserved temperament. That is also okay.
Yeah. Yeah, anything anyone wants to add on? Hmm. Okay, so maybe we can. Yeah, let's take this much up and then we can end today. This sounds good for us. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone wants to read, please read the highlighted portion.
Yeah, I can read. But are not all these currents conflicting? I produce them blindly without knowing their effects. Which of these attitudes is good? All. All this is good. You must only watch what happens. The solar center and that in the head must cooperate in the perfect mastery of the instruments. Each has its role. Question. Should this attitude of witness of mental changes to be held in all circumstances of ordinary life? At present, in these conditions, I can manage only less important semi-automatic activities. As soon as a certain action is necessary, I get lost once again in action. Answer. But this is not indispensable. It is a question of habit. You have not yet conquered the illusion which sees you as the doer. Naturally, this witness attitude is necessary. It is a first step. All the parts of it automatic, and from above, when one watches them, one can stop or modify them.
Yeah, thank you. So, oh, yeah, anything here?
Yeah, just a very small comment. The ease with which he says that you have not yet conquered the illusion which sees you as the doer. Not the ease, but how simply, okay, just this much has not been done yet, and lifetime after lifetime after lifetime is stuck in this doership. The Gita was written basically, right? That you're not the doer, and yeah, just like really beautiful the way he said.
Yeah, yeah, that is a wonderful observation. Yes. Like ये तो कुछ नहीं है, you just also you will conquer, but yes, it's so hard to do.
Yeah. So there are these essays, Divine and Human by Sri Aurobindo, and usme there is one particular. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah. Yeah, so there is this particular essay which I thought would resonate very well with what I think most of these conversations with Sri Aurobindo, what we have been reading so far. So this is a little essay. It's called Na Kinchidapi Chintayet. And maybe we can just go through it and then see whatever we have. So he says, the cessation of thought is the one thing which the believer in intellect has, as the highest term of our evolution, cannot contemplate with equanimity. वही हमें लगता है कि कैसे सोच कैसे बंद कर दें, तो सोच तो नहीं बंद कर सकते. To master the fleeting randomness of thought by regulating the intellectual powers and thinking consecutively and clearly is an ideal he can understand, the intellectual. But to still this higher development of thought seems to him the negation of human activity. तो ये हमको लगता है कि नहीं, ये मत बोलो करने के लिए, ये सोच को बिल्कुल स्टिल कर दें, कुछ ज़्यादा ही हो जाएगा. वो मत बोलो. So he says, but to still this higher development of thought seems to him the negation of human activity, a reversion to the condition of the stone. कि मेरे में और पत्थर में फिर क्या डिफरेंस रह गया अगर मैं सोचूं ही नहीं. Yet it is certain that it is only by the stilling of the lower that the higher gets full play. Yet it is certain that it is only by the stilling of the lower that the higher gets full play. So long as the body and the vital desires are active, the mind is necessarily distracted, and it is only when the body is forgotten and vital part consents to quietude that a man can concentrate himself in thought and follow undisturbed the consecutive development, whether of a train of reasoning or a train of inspiration. So even if we have to follow a train of reasoning and inspiration, uske liye bhi thoda lower part settled only, then we can actually follow that train of reason that we want to follow. Not only is this so, but the higher faculties of the mind can only work at their best when the lower are quieted. If the accumulations in the chitta, the recording part of the mind, are continually active, full as it is of preconceived ideas, prejudices, predilections, the great mass of previous sanskaras, what we call as vrittis or patterns, the reflective mind, which is ordinarily called the reason, is obstructed in its work and comes to false conclusions. So अगर रीजन में भी हमें पवित्रता चाहिए, प्योरिटी चाहिए रीजन में भी, उसके लिए भी ये बहुत ज़रूरी है that all this background noise kind of settles down, it doesn't disturb. It is essential for the faculties of the reason to be freed. So now he takes us step by step. He's like taking us on a ladder. He says that if reason is to rule all this lower, then the reason must be free of the lower. So he says it is essential for the faculties of the reason to be freed as far as may be from this ever increasing accumulation of thought sensations, good and bad, false and true, which we call mind, manas. तो अगर रीजन को भी अपना बेस्ट काम करना है, उसके लिए उसको इन नीचे की चीजों से उसको फ्री रहना पड़ेगा. Then he goes further. It is this freedom which is called the scientific spirit. That अपने नीचे वाले bias आपने भुला के, you are just standing a little bit above. To form no conclusions which are not justified by observation and reasoning, to doubt everything until it is proved, but to deny nothing until it is disproved. To be always ready to reconsider old conclusions in the light of new facts. To give a candid consideration to every new idea or old idea revived if it deserves a hearing, no matter how contradictory it may be of previously ascertained experience or previously formed conclusion, is the skeptical temper, the temper of the inquirer, the true scientist, the untrammeled thinker. So this we see in all of us to a relative degree. In some people it is to a greater degree. Those of us who have inquirer and scientific kind of a mind, that we question and we give, we have to rise above our personal biases if we truly want to get to the root of that questioning. The interference of prejudgment and predilection means bondage. And until the higher mind has shaken off these fetters, it is not free. It works in chains, it sees in blinkers. This is as true of the materialist refusing to consider spiritualism and occultism as it is of the religionist refusing to consider science. Freedom is the first requisite of full working power, the freedom of the higher from the lower. The mind must be free from the body if it is to be purified from the grossness which clogs its motions. The heart must be free from the obsessions of the body if love and high aspiration are to increase. The reason must be free from the heart and the lower mind if it is to reflect perfectly. So he is telling us, कि कैसे एक एक स्टेप में हमको छोटे नीचे वाले से फ्रीडम चाहिए. Mind must be free from the body if it is to be purified from grossness. The heart must be freed from the obsessions of the body. So heart has to be free from all these lower obsessions if love and high aspiration are to increase. And reason must be free from the heart and the lower mind if it is to reflect perfectly. For the heart can inspire, it cannot think. It is a vehicle of direct knowledge colored by emotion, not of ratiocination. But a similar process, if there is anything higher than the reason, now this comes, here he gives us a culmination कि अब reason को इन चीजों से free करना है ताकि reason अपना best काम कर पाए. अब reason को जब पता लगा कि उसके ऊपर भी कुछ है, तो उसकी working के लिए उसको reason से free होना पड़ेगा. Because reason will then become the lower ground, उससे free होना पड़ेगा. So now he says, by a similar process, if there is anything higher than the reason, it can only be set free to work by the stillness of the whole mind, not excluding the reflective faculty. So even all these reflection that we are so proud of, that we can reflect, that we can reason, we can argue, we can find the root through our reasoning. Even that has to be stilled if the higher faculties have to be allowed to work. This is a conclusion from analogy indeed, and not entirely binding until confirmed by experience and observation. So of course we have to experiment with ourselves whether it works for us or not. But we have given reason in past articles for supposing that there is a higher force than logical reason, and the experience and observation of yoga confirm the inference from analogy that the stillness of the mind is the first requisite for discovering, distinguishing, and perfecting the action of this higher element in the psychology of man. The stillness of the mind is prepared. Now he tells about, how Raj Yoga prepares this ground of stillness. And that is also very beautiful. So I'll recommend whoever wants to go ahead and read this. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah. And then he
Thank
also
you.
talks about the process of Gita. So first he talks
Mm.
about the process of Raja Yoga, how it comes at the stillness, and then in the next one, he says in the Gita, we have a process which is not the process of Raja Yoga, but again it goes straight to the stillness of mind.
Mm.
Instead of allowing the mind to flow outward, he compels it to rise and fall within. वो जो एक कछुए की बात करते हैं ना कि सारी सेंसेस को अपने अंदर ले लो, जैसे कछुआ अपने अंदर सारे लिम्स खींच लेता है. So it allows the mind to rise and fall within. And if he sees, hears, feels, smells outward objects, he pays no attention to them and draws the mind always inward. So this is the method of the Gita he shares. Yeah, and then he concludes, whichever of the two methods be chosen, the result is the same. The mind is stilled, the higher faculties awakened. The stillness of the mind is not altogether a new idea or peculiar to India. And then he shares that we have earlier also used this idea.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think it's very beneficial. When I first read it, it was very, especially for those of us who are much into books and intellectual reflections and all that, because there is where we struggle the most. कि सोच सोच के तो यहाँ तक पहुँचे, अब तुम कह रहे हो सोच को भी बंद कर दे, तो कैसे? तो it is very inspirational that it is just a step. Soch is just a step, and now maybe if it's time, then we can think about further experimenting with ourselves.
It's I know we're over, but just
Mm-hmm.
one point. It's very intuitive, actually, what he says here. I mean, even though we may not experience it in the mind, but if you see, all the people who do any physical yoga, right? Even like karate or whatever, right? Even yogasans, there is a complete stillness of the body that is required. It is very focused, but the body is still, but that is giving you mastery of the physical. Similarly, if you go to the vital, you need all the emotions, everything. That part has to actually become still for you to master that and rise higher. I mean, one can almost intuitively see that is there in the ascending kind of order, right? And then if you go up, the mind, what he's saying is like to achieve that mastery and to go to the higher level, you have to still it, which seemed very counterintuitive, as you said. So, but I was just trying to draw the parallel that it's that all the lower regions in a way have to be stilled to go higher, right? And it's very interesting the way he's put it.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Yeah, anything here? Okay, so we can end here today and maybe take a moment of silence to share and dedicate all the goodness and merit, collective and individual, sharing it with innumerable sentient beings near and far. May all of us be truly well and truly happy. And may we all find what we are looking for within ourselves. Okay.